Welcome to another episode of Out of the Pods. I'm Deepti.
And I'm Natalie, and happy Wednesday. It's our last recap episode of Love is Blind Season 8. And I think this is going to be a good one because, wow, what a set of episodes. They really did save the best for last.
Honestly, I thought the reunion was the best episode about this entire season. I feel like it was a slow burn, and I'm like, okay, I see how the vision was there for this season.
No, I see it too. And also the wedding episode, it was good too. I mean, it's not my
Yeah.
favorite wedding episode, but it was pretty good considering how much backlash this season got about its boringness. I don't even know if that's a word.
Weirdly, I was actually very emotional through this finale episode. Like the wedding episodes always get to me because I think when families are involved, it makes me a lot more invested. And I'm like, oh, they just want the best for their kids. And I don't know, I got like emotional during Joey and Monica's. And I'm like, why? Why did I get so emotional? But I agree. I think the finale and the reunion made this season so much better.
I really like these episodes, but before we get into it, we need to talk about the date that I went on. I know I promised you guys an update. So I was supposed to go on this date after we recorded last week's episode, but I was so exhausted. Like, I was just like, there's no way I'm going on this date. Like, I feel like I only have 5% of energy. So I actually went on the date last night.
How'd it go?
Look, can I just say one thing? British
Please.
men are so mean. I thought I had dry sense of humor, but British people have a different sense of humor. Like I was like, my feelings are getting hurt.
You got a little taste of your own medicine, eh?
Yeah. Like I was telling him I have a podcast and he's like, "Oh, so you don't have a job." And I was like, you know what it like their sense of humor, it like slaps you in the face. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh."
You're like, wait, how do I respond to this?
And he's like, "What kind of topics do you talk about?" And I was like, "Oh, mostly, just about ourselves." Like, I was like, "What do we talk about on this podcast?" And he goes, "Wow, riveting, life changing."
So they're like, so are you teaching anyone anything? You're
Yeah,
like,
they're
no,
like,
we're
"Are you
not.
changing the world?" And I was like, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But when our season came out and people were pointing out that I have like this mean sense of humor, I'm really sarcastic. I would hear these comments like, "You should move to the UK. Their banter is like super mean and funny." And I was like, yeah, like I love that sort of banter.
I thought of you the other day because on my flight to Dallas, I've been in Dallas this whole week. I watched Notting Hill. And it's like the old classic. And I'm like, why haven't I watched this before? But it was so good. Like, only because I saw on TikTok that little clip where it's like, I'm just a girl asking for a boy to love her. And I was like, what is this from? So I ended up watching it because it was on the entertainment thing on the
Yeah.
flight. And it was so cute. And I was like, oh, Natalie's having the best time.
Yeah. So I live in Notting Hill right now and I
Yeah.
passed by the bookstore that's in the movie. And I was like, am I Julia Roberts right now? Like, am I gonna meet the love of my life?
Wait, is it still a travel bookstore?
No, it's not. Like, I think that the film just used this bookstore as like the filming set, but it's more of this like touristy bookstore now. And it has a poster of Notting Hill, like the movie Notting Hill, on its storefront, which is kind
That's
of fun.
so cute. I know I watched it and I was like, oh, Natalie's like really romanticizing life right now because
No, I'm not.
this
Not
is
after
like
that
such a
date.
cute.
Not after that date. I was all like, whatever I was romanticizing of being in a relationship with a British man, it's slapped right out of me, okay? Because
I was going to say the stereotype then, because when I watched Notting Hill, I was like, oh my God, this is so romantic. Like British men are the sweetest ever. So
I mean, what I will say, everything sounds better in a British accent. You could be telling me the craziest things, and I will still think you're 20 times smarter than me because you're speaking in a British accent. Anyways, this date went really well. I just have to get used to the sense of humor. But what I noticed about myself is I'm like not a good dater.
why? What do you mean?
He was so funny that I became insecure. So I started being like all awkward. And yeah, that's it. It wasn't my
That's so
best. It
funny.
wasn't my best, but I'm just going to see him again to see where it goes, like for the plot.
Yeah, absolutely do it for the plot. You know what's funny is you got me thinking like I haven't been on a date in so long. I'm a very good first dater. Like I either put in overtime or it's like it's just really fun. Like I make sure it is. Like even if the other person's like very, I don't know,
You
reserved
could
or
talk to a
just like
wall. I've seen you
yeah,
at parties.
100%.
Deepti
Yeah.
can talk to literally anyone, and I really think it's your biggest superpower. I don't
I
know how you do
honestly
it, but you will ask follow-up questions that come out of left field.
well, I
And they'll
learned
give you
that
nothing, but you'll like think of a follow-up question. I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
I think that making good conversation and being impressionable means like taking an interest in the other person. And I don't love to talk about myself. So I'm like, this is perfect for me. I will ask you so many questions just to get to know you. And I'm like, let's just put all of the spotlight on you.
But I feel like it's different when you're having a conversation with a stranger trying to get to know them versus trying to have a first date with someone and you're a little bit flirty and trying to keep it more like romantic versus platonic. That's what I struggle with. I treat a date like I'm having a business meeting or like a job interview. Like, I'm like, so what's your responsibilities at work? Like, do you like your job? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
You flip
think of
out the
something else.
notepad.
I was
You
like,
flip out the notepad and you're like, okay, I have these questions. I'm going to just like quickly take a few notes and I'll get back to you in 3 to 5 business days.
no, literally, I was like, I do not know how to flirt anymore. And I've never been a good flirt, but I used to be kind of like, what's the word? Cheeky from
Yeah.
time to time. And now there's nothing. It's like, I'm just spewing out questions. I'm just trying to keep the conversation going. I forgot how to flirt.
I feel like Love is Blind changed my perspective on dating so much. And I'm sure it has for you too, where I don't want to talk about what your favorite color is. I don't want to talk about like the mundane things. Like, I'm kind of like Meg from this season. I'm like, so do you believe in aliens? What about some conspiracy theories? Like that's
Yeah.
where I thrive in conversation. I like to get deep so fast. And I was like a little bit like that before Love is Blind, but after Love is Blind, I feel like it's deepened even more. And now I'm like, I just can't sit through the small talk.
I totally get that because before Love is Blind, I would have like deep conversations on date 5. Like that's when
Yeah.
I would ask you like what are your political views? What's your financial situation like? And now it's like date 1. I was all like, who did you vote for? Let me see your banking and checkings account. Like I need to know you're not in severe debt. What do you think about prenups? Like how many kids do you want to have? I need to know now to assess if we're going to be compatible for date 2. Like, I'm not
Yes.
waiting to date 5 anymore.
Absolutely. And you remember, like, in our little journals that we got on Love is Blind at the back, there's like the prompt questions. I'm like, those are the ones that run through my head. And I'm like, okay, let's get after it. Because not once did I see, like, what's your favorite animal? Like, how do you like your coffee?
No, I
It's
know.
like, it gets deep so fast.
But anyways, we'll see where that date goes. That's kind of the update is just that he had a mean sense of humor, but I just think it's a thing here. Like, I think
Mhm.
it's just what they call banter. And, every time I've tried to do the same banter, men hate it in Chicago. So,
You've met your match.
yeah, I was like, oh, I met my match. Yeah, for sure. But I also booked last minute flights to Ireland for this week because it's my birthday week. So I was like, let
Yeah.
me just spend it in Ireland. Like, why not?
Speaking of solo travel, I am going on my first solo international travel to Costa Rica. I'm leaving in a few days, and I'm actually like really excited, of course. Like I'm 90% excited, 10% like really nervous because I'm the type of person that doesn't even like to go to restaurants alone. So it's going
Mhm.
to be so interesting to see how I am just by myself.
I went on my first solo trip last week to Amsterdam and I loved it. Like, I think you'll really love it because you don't have to answer to anyone. Like, you could do
Mhm.
whatever you want to do. You can go wherever you want to go. If something was on your itinerary and you don't want to do it anymore, like, you don't have to do it. Like, you don't have to
Mhm.
like discuss it with someone.
Yep.
So, that's been just really freeing. But
Mhm.
yes, eating alone, I'm still not used to because there's that
Yep.
awkward period from when you are waiting for the waiter to take your order and also after they take your order and you're waiting for your food and you just like don't know what to do. Like you're like, should
Yeah.
I just stay on my phone the entire time or like, like read a book? Like what do I do? And people around you are just like, chatting it up with, whoever they're with at dinner.
Yeah.
That part I am still not used to for sure.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm looking forward to it because I think it's going to be like exposure therapy. And I'm just going to put myself in situations where it's going to feel awkward, but you don't have to feel weird about it because I think sometimes I'm like, oh, are people looking at me and thinking, oh,
Yeah.
no one wanted to travel with her? Oh, no one, wanted to go on this dinner with her. But I'm like, no one's thinking that. Everyone's in their own world. They don't care what you're doing. But I will have to say, as a buffer, I am going to bring a book just in case that I'm like, oh, it feels so weird to me that I'm like, I have to be doing something. So I'm just going to bring like a book just in case I
Yeah.
feel awkward. But the beautiful thing about Costa Rica and the reason why I picked it was because I really wanted to connect with nature. I feel like I'm sick of the city life. And that's why I'm feeling so like depleted when I'm in Chicago. That and there's no sun in Chicago, that too. But I just
Depleted.
feel like really depleted. And I feel like I get my energy from the mountains and the
Yeah.
ocean. And so I'm really excited to just like wake up every morning, see a sunrise, go on a walk along the beach, just like be a beach bum, read. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And one of the legs of my 3 week stay, I'm staying at a wellness place. And it's like a yoga retreat.
Oh my
So you
gosh.
wake up in the morning, you do yoga, everything's like farm to table. I'm doing like a coffee bean tour. So I'm really excited.
Honestly, I'm so excited for you. Deepti and I have talked about this, but we've always had this urge to just do something new. We've been in Chicago for such a long time now. And we're like, why not? Because we don't have kids right now. We don't have partners. And we could do this podcast from anywhere. And we're like, let's just do it. Like,
Yeah,
we are in our eat, pray, love era. Also, we might be
absolutely.
having a mental breakdown. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's why we want to prep so much. Like, I can't really
Yeah.
tell like what's going on with us, but it feels really good. Like, I'm so happy for us. I feel like this is a new chapter for us to like build new memories and just get to know ourselves. And I feel like we've been talking so long about just trying someplace new. Like, this is it.
It's very odd for you to just pick up and go because you're such a type A personality. I'm like a type B, almost a type C type of personality where I'm like, just go with the wind. And like, obviously, I've like traveled a lot and you have too. But I think this is the first time where we're doing it alone, completely on our own and in a country that is not the United States, which is crazy. It's crazy, but I'm not going to lie to you. My parents are so nervous for me. They're like, "What do you mean you're going to rent a car in Costa Rica? Do you even know how to like
Drive.
navigate there?" I
They're like, do
was
you
like,
know how to drive on non-US roads?
which I did so much research on it, and it's going to be a struggle. What I saw one clip where it was like you can take the scenic route or you can take the longer route on actual roads, but the scenic route one apparently goes through a river. And I was
Oh,
like, what do you mean it goes through a river? Like,
yeah. What does that
I
mean?
would I even saw videos on it on TikTok, but like when it's like heavy rain, the road floods and it's like an actual river and it's not deep, but you have to like drive through it and obviously have an all-wheel drive. But I was like, that sounds like a fun adventure. But my
Oh my
parents are
gosh.
freaking out. My parents literally have asked me like 5 to 6 times already. They're like, I think we can come to Costa Rica with you. Like, we can take some time off and just be there. And I'm like, you guys are not invited. Like, you're not coming.
Yeah, like this is a me trip. My parents are the same exact way. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm 32 years old. But it's crazy because I realize like I'm still like the youngest in their eyes. Like I'm still the baby of the family and they think
Mhm.
I don't know how to do anything. My dad was like, I can help you build your itinerary. And I was like, Dad, I'm 32. Okay.
Yeah.
I've experienced the internet longer than you have.
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
please.
Which I know my parents are the same exact way. They're definitely freaking out. My mom was like, "Why do you always give me so much anxiety?" She's like, "Why can't you be like your other siblings and just do normal things in life? Like, I'm not going to sleep for the 3 weeks that you're gone." And I was
No,
like, "Well,
it'll be so good. You know, you might not even come back. You might meet someone in Costa Rica. Like, I feel like that's like you said it. You said it, Deepti. You said that if you felt the urge to go somewhere, you feel like your partner is going to be there, and your
yeah."
next partner might be Costa Rican.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, how crazy would that be?
That would be wild.
I imagine us listening to this episode 5 months from now, and you are like married to a Costa Rican man. Who's like making coffee
Me,
every morning.
you might meet the love of your life in like Ireland, or you're in England. What if you're like, Deepti, I think I'm gonna be moving to London. I'm gonna be like, no, you're not. No, you're
No,
not.
please. For the podcast, we're going back to Chicago, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just
Listen,
kidding. Who
I
knows?
still pay rent. I still pay rent. I have an apartment. I gotta go back.
Like
I'm like,
how,
I need to enjoy my rent at some point.
because how are we, is this like a little teaser? Like how are we going to do live shows if we're
Uh-huh.
not based in the same place?
True. Dun dun
Anyways,
dun.
just
I
putting
do
it
have
out
to
there.
say, all of the pod besties, when I went on the Hawaii trip for my birthday, remember when you were like, you're gonna fall in love with a surf instructor? I will be taking a surf lesson in Costa Rica, so stay tuned, friends. We'll see what happens.
Oh my gosh, this might be life changing. I'm excited. Since I've been in London, I just want to see who is out here. So I went on Bumble and I love the profile prompts on Bumble. Not to toot my own horn, but I will get very creative with them to show people that I have a dry sense of humor. I'm silly, a little bit type A, what I want in a relationship. So I've been so honest on my profile on who I am. And I love that I can do that.
Yes, and I feel like I'm so comfortable with myself, and it's so easy to express myself on Bumble so that I attract the right people for me. And I like that Bumble lets me be super picky about what I want so I can choose men who are on my wavelength.
And I really like their features like interests and intentions. Like intentions are so important because I don't want a man who doesn't know if he wants to be in a relationship. So I like that I can see on people's profiles if they share my values and want what I want too. When you're being real and authentically yourself, the right connections will follow.
So date on your terms, date your way on Bumble.
Speaking about life changing, though, let's get into the finale. We are recapping the finale and reunion episodes, but let's start with the finale, the wedding episode, because lots of little surprises.
I think a lot of people also I've seen are like absolutely so upset that the couples made it so far and then said no. But that's the whole premise of the show. And I feel like even me, I was holding out hope until the very last minute almost. Like, okay, can I change my partner's mind? Like, can this be a thing? So
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, don't fault them for that. Like, that's the whole point of the experience.
I also think it's really hard for viewers to understand why some of the women said no. I think what made this wedding episode shocking and why some of the women who said no are getting backlash, which I'm really surprised about, is because I think leading up to this wedding episode, we didn't get a lot of footage of the conflict that these couples were having.
Let's get into Sarah and Ben though, because I was very shocked at how it all happened. Like when Sarah said no, and Ben was like, maybe we can continue dating. And she's like, we'll see. She did an she did an interview and she mentioned that Ben and her had talked about it before and that they probably weren't going to date after. So she was kind of like blindsided that he brought it up, apparently. So I was like, interesting. Because then at the reunion, they talk about how they actually did end up like seeing each other after. So I was like, this couple just confuses me altogether.
Wait, so did she say in that interview that her and Ben had talked prior to their wedding day about saying no at the altar? So he knew that she was going to say no.
Yes, that was what was implied. So she was like kind of taken aback by Ben's reaction, I guess, at the altar. So it was interesting, but I'm really glad she said no.
Isn't editing crazy though? The fact that they agreed to say no, but editing can make it seem like Ben was really shocked at her answer. And also, remember the snippets in the previous episode? So in episode 11, where her sister and her sister's partner, they're talking about how, like, I think Sarah's going to say yes. So it was like,
Yes.
what? Like, I'm super confused. But again, like, obviously, having been in their shoes, we know that most couples, more often than not, already know what each other are going to say prior to the wedding day. It's probably the nice thing you can do instead of blindsiding someone at the altar.
Yeah, no one goes into that extremely stressful situation not having talked to their partner or texting them to be like, hey, like what's going on? Maybe not on the wedding day itself, but at least prior to the wedding day, like the day before or like a few days before, you're thinking about it. That's all that's on your mind.
Yeah.
And it would be so shitty not to bring up your thoughts. And if you blindside them, that's like, oh, not a good look.
When I initially watched Sarah and Ben's wedding scene, I actually thought she was like faking it, though I feel very differently after seeing the reunion. I think it's because she came off a little bit awkward, right? But then I got a DM from a pot bestie and they're like, you know what? I think it's like just that Minnesota personality where
Mm.
you hear it a lot, like Midwestern niceness. And I think it's pretty prevalent in Minnesota where you're kind of trying to be nice and let someone down nicely. So I think that's why she was a little bit awkward at the altar in terms of what she was saying, where she's like, I love you, but this isn't going to happen. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's not something most people would say as they're rejecting someone, but I think it was her just trying to be really nice.
Yeah,
And it came off a little bit
absolutely.
awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and they didn't waste any time either on going into Ben and Sarah. They were just like, "Zoop, let's go
Yeah.
straight into the altar." Which I appreciated after all the wait.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is I waited to watch the finale right before the reunion aired, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's an hour and 40 minutes. That's like a whole movie.
I
Like, why is
know.
it so long?"
I will say that editors and producers like put in scenes during this wedding that just like weren't necessary. I think
Mhm.
I'm the type of watcher where I was like, just get to the point, Like I don't want to see all the fluff. I just want to see like the big moments.
Mhm.
So people might be watching it differently, but I was just like, this episode is way too long. Like,
I
I
agree.
just want to know what happens. Okay. Like we don't need all this, like, like seeing someone get zipped up into their dress. Like I was like, I don't need to see it.
Yeah,
But
I
that's just
know.
me.
I mean, I'm sure the cast would love to see it being, memorialized, I would say, and so they can watch it back. But I think we as viewers are not as invested. But I tried to pay attention this time and not forward through most things or watch it on 2x speed. I was like, let me
Yeah.
feel the emotions this time around.
One couple that I feel like also told each other what their answer was going to be prior to their wedding day is Monica and Joey.
Interesting. I had a different opinion. I felt like I wanted to know what Joey's answer would have been because for the first time ever, I saw like small little tear like wells in Joey's eyes when Monica said no. And I was like, was he gonna say yes? And for some reason I feel like they didn't talk about it. I don't know, but that was just my take on it. But it was very interesting and revealing what Monica had to say about Joey, the fact that he's not affectionate, and at one point, she was like, he's a stone cold man. Like, I don't know what he's going to be thinking or feeling when I see him at the altar. And I'm like, that's got to be so difficult for her.
The only reason I felt like they agreed upon it before the wedding day, or at least Monica and Joey were both aware they weren't getting married that day, is their vows were not great. Like their vows were something I would write and text a guy I wanted to end things with after the third date. Joey was like, "Thank you for going on this journey with me." I was
Yeah.
like,
The
okay.
whole thing was very platonic. And I think, like, after I saw the wedding episode, I was like, oh, it's totally accurate. Like, they did have like a really good friendship, but like, we didn't see any romantic vibes. Like, they barely kissed and they weren't that affectionate, which at first I think I was like, okay, it's hard to do that on camera. So maybe it's like they're just, feeling awkward about PDA when the world is watching, and that's the kind of vibe I got. But I don't know. I feel like if I was in Monica's shoes, I totally understand where she was coming from. And also the fact that he longboarded into
I hated that.
the altar.
I actually hated that.
That's when you know it's so unserious. Like, this
Yeah,
man's not getting married.
no, for real. I was like, your skateboard is like Sal's ukulele. I'm sick of it. Okay. Like, I don't want to, we get it. You're a skater boy. Like, but
I said, see
really,
you later, boy.
I was like, are you really trying to build a brand right now on your wedding day? But that's when I was like, they're not getting married because there's no way. If Monica knew that Joey was going to skateboard down the aisle, if they were actually saying yes, she would absolutely have said no. Like, if
Okay,
Joey
first,
asked me, like, can I skateboard down the aisle on our wedding day? I'd be like, absolutely fucking not.
yeah. No, and that's why it's like, okay, of course it's so unserious, but at the same time, is it not true Joey fashion to do something like that? That's why I was like, I'm not mad about it. It added a little flavor to the episode.
One thing I've noticed when traveling in different countries, everything is way more expensive now, no matter where you are in the world. Like, I'm really good with my money, but I understand how people get into credit card debt. It's truly an expensive world now. Obviously, credit card debt is the last thing you want, but there's a better way. You can build credit with money you set aside and avoid interest or expensive debt with Chime's Credit Builder card. It's a secured credit card with no credit check or minimum deposit required.
What I like about it is you can build your credit with everyday purchases and regular on time payments. There are so many benefits to having better credit, like access to lower rates on loans for a car or home, or securing an apartment or house. Landlords often check credit scores to evaluate rental applications, so a good score makes a big difference.
Turn your everyday purchases and on time payments into steps towards your financial goals with Chime Secured Credit Builder Visa Credit Card.
Get started today at chime.com/out of the pods. That's chime.com/out of the pods. Chime feels like progress.
The Chime Credit Builder Visa Credit Card is issued by the Bancorp Bank NA or Stride Bank NA. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Chime checking account required to apply. Out of network ATM withdrawal and OTC advance fees may apply. Timing depends on submission of payment file. Late payment may negatively impact your credit score. Results may vary. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. It was like very clear to me
Mm.
that Joey wasn't into Monica because I feel like when Monica was saying Joey hasn't told her like he wants her, like she's not feeling it, I was like, clearly that's an indicator like the non PDA we're seeing on screen is also not happening off screen. We'll get into the reunion in a little bit, but I think I feel sad for her because I do feel like she liked him.
Yeah, I feel like Monica really did like Joey a lot, so it was, like, kind of tough to watch, but their interviews after was, like, very interesting, like, Joey kind of blaming it on Monica's sister as to why he couldn't get there felt like kind of an excuse to me, whereas Monica, I feel like, had an actual reason as to why they couldn't get there, and I think it had a lot to do with their love language and their communication. It just didn't balance out, and he wasn't showing her that he loved her through affection, and he wasn't showing her that he loved her through, words of affirmation. So, like, she got nothing. And I felt like Joey's excuse was kind of a cop out. So,
He took a page from Dave's book. He's like, I'm going to blame everything on our sisters, okay? This is the theme of Love is Blind season 8. It's like, blame your freaking sisters.
I'm like, I can't believe these people are projecting everything onto their sisters and their family members. Like, take some accountability.
Yeah, I feel like Joey is low key the villain of this season in that I feel like he led Monica on and kind of just stayed with her to the very end and like kept it kind of cordial on screen because, he was like, got to do it for the edit. But that's my
Mhm.
unpopular, maybe popular opinion.
Yeah, and we'll get into it when we talk about the reunion because I did not have Joey as the villain on my bingo card, and I didn't have Devin being the villain on the bingo card either. Like, that Virginia and Devin's wedding day was very odd to me.
This one I really loved.
Okay,
It got real juicy. First of all, I want to say something about Virginia. She is my top favorite on this season.
yeah.
I know she had a little bit of a slow start, like she was super shy, but I feel like with this episode and the reunion, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this woman is not only stunning, but she's so mature. She knows what she wants and she's eloquent and I don't know, I love everything about her. I think her line about protecting him, I feel like when people protect their partners on the show, it shows like they really, really loved that person.
Yes, absolutely. That spoke to me so much. And this wedding made me really emotional for some reason. And again, it comes back to when you have family involved and like just having her dad talk to her. And I don't know, everything about it got me very emotional. But that was the piece that really spoke to me too, when she's like, it's important for me to protect him. But then kind of like showed like, oh, like, I want to protect him from our sexual relationship, communication on politics, and even the whole check situation was very odd to me. I was like, what is happening?
We have to talk about that. The fact that Devin never brought up the check. I mean, he kind of explained it at the reunion, but I still don't believe him. Don't you think that was so sketch?
Yes, very sketch. And I didn't understand it until the reunion. Like when I was watching the wedding scenes and she talked about the check, I was like, I'm confused. They gave him a check like at the wedding. Like obviously he probably didn't have time to give it to her. But then when I got the explanation at the reunion, I was like, wait a minute, Devin, that's shady. Shady
That is so
shades.
shady, especially because he had a few days to bring it up. That is so weird that he didn't bring it up.
Yeah. He had a whole week.
Even though he said that he was going to bring it up after the wedding, I was like, I don't think you were going to. I think you were going to pocket that. And that is so fucking weird. I think it's so weird when someone hides things about their finances. I heard this term somewhere where it's called like a financial affair, I think, or like financial cheating when you are like lying and hiding things about your finances and lying and hiding things about money. And I think it's so sketch when people do that in a relationship. And that is such a huge red flag.
Absolutely. And I wholeheartedly believe that when you do something shady, the universe always has a way of showing you the light. Like, how random is it that Virginia ran into Devin's mom and she just randomly happened to say, hey, like, my boss gave you a check? Like, that doesn't just happen. I feel like that's not a coincidence. I feel like the universe is intervening and is like, hello, he's not the man you thought he was, you know? And man, that was like, that kind of broke my heart for her. But I'm so happy she said no, even though I feel like she had the pressure of all the families wanting her to say yes. I'm just really happy that she stood up for herself and was like, you know what, I just couldn't get there. Thank the Lord
I
that she
know. And also his family, the way they reacted on their wedding day, I totally get that they're also surprised and probably upset on behalf of their son. But I thought it was a little bit weird just the way they were like, these ladies. I don't know if you remember that. Like talking
yes.
about how everyone got up and like went to go comfort her.
I didn't know who was saying it, but I definitely don't fault them because they're not in the limelight all the time, and they're just like I'm sure so high on emotion. So I'm like, I'll let it pass because I think they were just trying to be protective of Devin. So I was like, I get it. But what actually made me chuckle a little bit was when Devin's side of the family was talking to his niece and she was like asking, what happened? What happened? And he goes, she said no. And I was like, okay, I don't think you needed to tell her that. But she
I
was
was
so
like,
cute.
what is this child doing at this wedding?
I know.
She's probably going to be like, I have trauma.
I know. She's like, what do you mean? What just happened? I was supposed to go to a cute wedding. I know. She was so sweet and it kind of broke my heart, but
Going back to Sarah and Ben's wedding, I saw that Molly and Lauren were there. And I was so envious because they did not allow Shane and I to have other cast members at our wedding. There was one that actually showed up, like he slipped through the cracks. He didn't make it to the main cast. He was a guy that Shane was really close with in the pods, and he went home on day 3. But he was invited to our wedding, and like producers didn't know that he was actually part of the broader cast
wait,
until he
that's so
showed up.
funny.
And it was like a big deal. Like producers are like, what is he doing here? Like he's not allowed here. And I was like, wait, like what's the
Like
big deal?
why? Yeah. At mine I had two people from the cast. One of them was my
Yeah.
bridesmaids and the other, yeah, Hasib was who has been on this podcast before actually. And he was there. But yeah, I thought that was weird
Hasib
that
was your
they
bridesmaid.
no, Hasib was just a guest. But Juhi was the bridesmaid.
I misunderstood that. I was like, when did I
You're like,
totally missed that?
I didn't know you were doing something so untraditional.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's kind of weird how they
Mhm.
pick and choose, and I wonder why. Well, let's go to the main wedding of the season, Daniel and Taylor's. Their wedding was perfect.
Perfect.
Perfection.
I knew I was gonna cry, but I didn't know I was gonna cry so fast. But when Daniel's sister started singing, I lost it. I lost it. But didn't you think it was editing though that I think she like they filmed that scene before the wedding? Like I
That's what I
don't
was thinking too.
right?
But I don't
Yeah.
know. I can't
Yeah.
figure it out. Unless they made her like unless she did actually play it at their ceremony, and then they made her replay it to get like better shots. So
Hmm.
it could have also been that. Such a beautiful wedding. Like everyone knew they were going to say I do at the altar. One thing that made me laugh is when Daniel says, I think it was like towards the end of the wedding episode, he goes, "We fell in love without ever seeing each other." And I was like, "But did you?" We never got to know the ending of Instagram Gate. Like we
Yep.
still don't know.
Yeah, that's always going to be a question in our minds. But I honestly had no notes for this wedding. And I feel like you knew it was going to be an I do from both because also they showed us the bridesmaids and the groomsmen walking down the aisle. And that was the only wedding that happened. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, they're definitely saying yes.
Yeah, and just their edit leading up to it, it was just like there was no big red flags aside from that initial like, "Hey, did you follow or unfollow me on Instagram?" But
Right.
love them. Love them. Taylor looked beautiful. I'm going to give the men some props here. Daniel looked great, and I'm happy for them. And,
Me
they're still
too.
together according to the reunion episode.
Yeah, let's get into this reunion because, first of all, I didn't realize that Daniel was going to come in with a mustache.
It's like the woman's touch. It's like the moment that these men get married on the show, their style gets better, their looks just generally get better. And I was like, no, literally, women do so much. He got the woman's touch. He went from bachelor to husband.
Yes, the husband look, man. I do have to say before we get into it though, I absolutely loved when they showed all the little clips across all 8 seasons in the past 5 years. And I don't know why, but it got me a little emotional. I was like thinking about it. I was like, wow, there's been a lot of memories and just incredible moments and people that we've met. Like I would have never met you. And I just feel like I gained so much from the experience too. I was just like, wait a minute, like this was really nostalgic.
Yeah. And you would have never met Shake.
Yeah. And he taught me a lot in life.
Sorry, that's supposed to be
Oh,
a joke, but
I know it was a joke. I'm like, don't cry. I know you're emotional.
I think what this reunion episode shows is that producers are listening to viewers. Like they didn't
Mhm.
bring any alumni to this reunion aside from obviously AD and Ollie, which what a surprise. We got to talk about that.
Yes,
But
we do.
I think that what I'm seeing is that producers do actually listen to the complaints and feedback on social media after every season.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something new that they're doing, breaking the fourth wall and actually like paying attention because viewers do get pissed off when the reunion sucks. And I just have to say this reunion was juicy. It was
I loved it.
it was so good. It was like the little cherry on top of a very bland vanilla ice cream that we needed that was this season. Okay, all of us want the good things in life. And even though I do enjoy a little bit of luxury, it doesn't mean that I can always afford it until I discovered Quince. Quince is my go to for luxury at an affordable price. I've bought so many amazing things from there, like my entire bedding, linen wide leg pants. And recently, I got a cashmere puffer jacket from Quince. And not only is it so comfortable and feels amazing to put on, it's affordable. And the best part is I have no guilt purchasing it.
I also have the cashmere puffer jacket from them, and quality is definitely the way to go. And Quince offers a range of high quality items that are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And they're able to do this by partnering directly with top factories, cutting out the cost of the middleman and passing the savings on to us.
So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/out of the pods for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns.
That's QUINCE.com/out of the pods to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/out of the pods. 3 words from me: the women ate. Like these women of season 8 literally ate this reunion. They shared what they were thinking in a mature way. They were eloquent. They were standing up for each other and they were like really getting their words out. And it's so crazy how like the men that were like kind of okay during the season come to the reunion, you just hate them. You're like, "Oh
I
my gosh, they
know.
actually suck."
Yes, and the most surprising was Joey and Devin. I really liked them throughout this entire season, and I was like, finally, we have good guys on the show. There's maturity there, and then all of that's debunked as soon as you get to the reunion. I mean, I was there for it because I was like, we need some tea, but at the same time, I was really upset and disappointed because I was like, I really like them.
Totally. I thought positively about Joey throughout the season until we got to the wedding episode. I was like, this guy is a little bit weird. And then the reunion, I was like, okay, wow, he faked the entire thing. Like,
Okay.
I really think that he was never attracted to Monica, never wanted to be with her. But he was like, you know what? I got to stay in this relationship because if I don't, it's going to look bad on the show. Um, and yeah, I feel like he truly led her on.
I agree. And also, Monica looked so stunning. Her makeup was just, ooh, top tier. Like,
All the women.
gorgeous. All the women. I bet you Joey's just like punching the air right now, being like, why didn't I make this work? But I was so surprised by Joey. Like, why is he sliding into Madison's DMs? When he said Madison, I lost my mind. I was like, why is Madison involved in this? But I think it's really shady of him not to just like go up and be like, hey, I really like your pink hair when they were together in the same room. Why send a private DM? Why are you
Yeah.
checking in on the people that you dated in the pods? That's really weird.
Initially, I did not think it was that weird that he DM'd Madison. But then when they clarified, like Madison and Joey did date in the pods, and then the fact that he lied to Monica that Madison was coming on to him, that's when I was like, okay, I feel like it wasn't a platonic DM anymore.
No,
Like there was some
absolutely
like
not.
ill intent behind that.
Yes, absolutely. The intention of him even DMing her, I think to me is really awful because I had a connection with Kyle in the pods and I knew it would be inappropriate even to just be like, hey, while you're engaged. I waited
Yeah.
until right after the wedding. But like I think the intention behind it was very weird and Joey being like, "Oh, I just like to check up on people." I'm like, "That that doesn't make any sense." And also, did you find it so funny how they show Joey's sister's reactions to everything?
I know. I kind of get it because it's like that's their brother. So they're
Yeah.
probably just trying to be like getting defensive too, right?
Yeah.
Because like it's one thing about having this argument privately, and it's another thing for the entire world to like judge and see. So I was like, I get it. They're like
Yeah.
getting riled up for
Yeah.
Joey.
I feel like
But
at
yeah, I thought it was funny
I feel like
because it's always the sisters.
it's
Like
always the
everyone's
sisters.
sisters are always involved.
That's why I'm saying this season should just be Love is Blind Sisters Edition because what is happening? But I do think that at one point, I'm sure Joey's sisters were also like, oh my God, Joey, you're making it really hard for us to defend you right now. Cause even with my siblings, I'm like, if they do something wrong, I'm gonna clock it. I'm gonna call you out on it later. And I feel like at one point they were like very defensive and we're like, no, we're on Joey's side. But I feel like towards the end, they're like, oh no, Joey, what did you do?
He kept having the same excuse that he wasn't able to get to the next level with Monica because of her sister. And I was like, bro, first of all, you don't meet the families until like a week later after you return to your home cities. But, anyways, I still felt really sad for Monica. And I'm so glad she kind of like clarified and like kind of stopped protecting Joey. And I feel like when women are like, he faked it, I feel like you just know.
Yeah, and I felt really sad for Monica when she was like, "Oh, watching it back really hurt me because this man is not into me." I was like, "Wow, that actually sucks." Cause like I don't know, obviously she sees it through a different lens because she's been through so much with him. But I think that kind of broke my heart because I was like, wait a minute, like I felt like there were moments where it was like really special, but I'm sure behind the scenes, like it wasn't how she imagined it. And that's what we talk about all the time how you're in such a bubble when you're in this experience. You don't see things as they actually are. And when you're far removed from it looking in, you see all of the red flags and you see how, the love wasn't there or you kind of imagined it bigger than it actually was. And I don't know, that
Yeah.
kind of made me sad for her.
I also think it's easy to play it up in front of the cameras. Like Joey, I think the reason why we thought Joey and Monica were so cute throughout this season is because like he might have been like playing it up for when the cameras were on. And obviously she's feeling something very different off screen. Like he might be saying the right things to her again in front of the cameras. But obviously, we only film like a few hours, a few times per week during
Mhm.
filming, like when we're in our home cities. So we don't know how he was acting towards her during their downtime. So
Yeah.
obviously she knows way more. But yeah, like for me, I think the conclusion is that like Joey faked the entire thing. He just pretended he really liked Monica and he really just did it to protect himself from a negative edit.
Yeah. Oh, sad. I really, that's why I love the reunion because it changes your perspective on everything because people get
Yeah.
real at the reunion.
Yeah.
And when they just watch the show and the emotions are so raw and it's been a whole year, so they're like not under the spell anymore that is Love is Blind.
Yeah, and they no longer need to protect each other. Like that love is gone and they're like, "You know what? I'm just going to say what really happened." That's what I loved about this reunion is like the love is gone, it is lost. So these women are no longer protecting their men. Like Sarah and Virginia revealing so much about their men. I was like, "I am here for it." Like where was this all season? And also their I don't at the altar now totally makes sense. And I want to start with Devin and Virginia. Isn't Virginia so different than the Virginia that was portrayed on the show?
Absolutely. She had so much more confidence. She was able to speak her mind so clearly. She was trying so hard to protect Devin throughout the season that she wasn't really able to be herself. And at the reunion, she was just like completely her. And she looked stunning, absolutely
I
stunning,
know.
and had so much confidence. I was like, yeah, she was a different person completely.
That's what happens when you're not being dragged down by a dead like Devin.
Yeah. You could even see her glowing.
I know we already talked about the check, but his excuse that he was going to wait for after the wedding, do you think he was actually waiting?
No, absolutely not. That man bought some sneakers with that check. He
He's
was
like a
never going
thousand
to tell her.
dollars. That's three sneakers I could buy.
Yeah.
No, actually, according to him, just one.
Five. Yeah, just one. And also, it's so funny because he probably didn't expect Virginia to ever find out because he's like, oh, when is my mom's boss ever going to talk to Virginia? Like, I am pocketing this money. I also loved the moment where Virginia's like, I don't feel comfortable talking about Devin's views, but I will be clear about mine. It was great. I loved it. I've been traveling a lot lately and not getting enough sleep. I also feel very stressed out, and I can tell it's taking a toll on my body, especially my hair. I can feel it thinning, and I've lost a lot of volume in the past few months. But this year, I'm taking control of my hair health with Nutrafol. I've realized that hair is so much more than what you see on the surface. It's a reflection of what's happening internally. And Nutrafol targets the key root causes of your thinning hair and helps you grow stronger, healthier strands from within.
That's why I take Nutrafol consistently. So Nutrafol is the number one dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol Women Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months.
Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code OOTP.
Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code OOTP. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code OOTP. Also, what's up with these men ghosting their gorgeous partners? Virginia trying to make it work with Devin, or at least calling him a week after their wedding, and then him ghosting her. And I was like, what gives you the right to ghost her? If anything,
I
she should
know.
be ghosting you. And then same with Sarah and Ben, the fact he ghosted her. I was like, what?
Yes.
What gives you that right?
I absolutely loved that Molly and Madison also stuck up for Virginia and were like, no, Devin, you literally told us that Virginia was ghosting you when it's the other way around. I was like, thank God for girls, girls.
I know, I know. These men have been caught lying. I wish that we had that same sort of energy at our reunion because I feel like all the women knew so much, but we're like, okay, just we're going to stay in our own lanes. Like, it's fine, like, whatever. But I love how at this reunion, women stood up for each other and called out men for their lying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like literally, this was Virginia's shining moment. I'm so glad she said her piece along with Sarah. Like this reunion really, really made me like Sarah. Like it really changed my view on her. I thought she was always a little bit more timid during the season. And I'm not going to lie, a little bit performative, but honestly, her just sharing what happened in her relationship with Ben, I was kind of like, you know what? She does have a backbone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she was trying to protect Ben's feelings because obviously you grow to love somebody, but that doesn't mean that they're the right person for you. And I was a little taken back by Sarah, though, that she gave Ben another chance. I thought after that altar moment, like she would never go back to him, especially because she was so like confident that, because of their views being so different and their values being so different, that they're just not going to work. But the whole situation of him ghosting her when they decided to go to Nashville together and him like fly down and make all those plans, that was like really sketchy behavior from Ben. Like, I don't understand it.
Okay, same. I was a little bit shocked that she gave him another chance after the wedding because I just feel like she made it very clear it was never going to work because of their political views and just, their morals and values. But I think ultimately, like, it just shows with her and Virginia, like, they really liked their partners. They loved their partners and wanted to make it work. And I think it says the opposite about Ben and Devin. I think it says a lot about who took this experiment seriously when you're out of the Love is Blind bubble and what you do next after your wedding day or,
Yeah.
like after filming and you say no at the altar. So I feel like Sarah and Virginia trying to make it work for a little bit, like shows that they were really genuine in in their feelings for their partners. And I think it's as the opposite of Devin and Ben. Ben still confuses me because he still plays like the nice guy, very laid back sort of person really well. So I would love to know more about that TikTok, how he's treated other women in the past, what Sarah knows.
Yeah, and Sarah actually saying, "Hey, like I understand why that TikTok would have been made about you." I think she's starting to see Ben's patterns and behaviors and how it could track to what other women have experienced while dating him. So it kind of makes sense to me. I do think that it does have a little bit to do with ego, why the men probably didn't want to stay in their respective relationships because I don't know, like, and again, it's not like I'm supporting the men in any way because I am a girl's girl when it comes to this reunion. Like, I think they did exactly what needed to be done. But I think maybe their egos were a little bit hurt when they got rejected at the altar. And they're like, now I can take back the power by, kind of rejecting you in real life and not making this relationship work. But that's just my hot take on it.
Ew, that'd be so gross if they thought that way. Isn't there a saying like love knows no ego?
Yeah. Yeah, but humans are full of ego.
But unfortunately, the men cast it on the show. All they have is ego. So
Yeah.
you're really not surprised. Jimmy being called out on screen for advising Ben to be on good terms with Sarah. So funny. So funny. But I kind of hate how they made it a big deal as if Jimmy did something wrong. I
Mhm.
totally get like Sarah bringing it up, right? Because it sucks to be like, hey, you're just trying to be on good terms with me because you're caring about your edit during the reunion. But can I be for real? Like most of these cast members reached out to alumni for advice on like how to act at the reunion. It happens every single season. And yeah, that advice is always like be on good terms with your partner. Like make sure you practice on what you're going to say if, you guys don't want to get into it on screen at the reunion. So I think it's more common than people think it is.
I agree. And also, like, I don't fault Jimmy. I don't think Jimmy should be taking the blame because Jimmy just gave some advice. It's up to Ben on how he handled it and what he said to Sarah. Like, Jimmy did not instruct him to say specific words. So the fault should be completely on Ben when it comes to that scripted apology.
But I think it does say a little bit about Jimmy. It's like, did he do the same thing to Chelsea on season 6? Like, did he make sure that they were on good terms so that he wouldn't have things revealed about him during their reunion? Because, I've heard some things and I don't know. I think not a lot is as it seems.
No, it's true. It's hard because the internet is a really mean place and you have to be not calculated at the reunion, but you do have to be careful with your words. And it's not meant to be like an all-out brawl because I think again, the internet has a lot to say, and people are already making so many videos about it, and it's a tough place to be. So I think people come into it, especially now that we're on season 8, they're thinking about it and they're being a little bit more calculated on what they want to say. And I think it's appropriate to do that.
Yeah, I know it sounds bad to be like, yeah, to get the advice, be on good terms with someone. But at the end of the day, like, this is where you get to the point where you're kind of worried how you're going to come off. Like when you initially sign up for Love is Blind, it's kind of this like fun thing. You don't think about the different scenarios, but after you finish filming, you're like, okay, I have to be a little bit calculated. Like, this
Hmm.
was so tough. You start having those thoughts like, how is this going to impact my job? What's going to be my edit? Like, those thoughts become really real. I think people would be shocked to know that, like, I've heard even married couples give advice to other married couples, like how they should act at reunions, like be super happy, stay out of everyone's business. And that's still advising. Like, so I
Yeah,
don't know. But yeah, it was funny when Jimmy got called out. And I think because Ben came off so bad at the reunion, it just looked really bad.
really, really bad. Oh man, and you know who else looked really bad? Dave. Why is Dave so performative? Like everything that he was saying, I was just like, I don't know, it just doesn't track. Like you had a
I
full
know.
year to contact Lauren and try to make the relationship work or give it another chance. You did none of that. Why are you bringing it up like at the reunion or like 2 weeks before the reunion's supposed to film? Like it doesn't make any sense.
I think that he's so overwhelmed from the backlash. He was just trying to say anything to come off like genuine or to improve his image, which I totally understand. Like, that's like the thing people would want to do if they were the villain of their season. But yeah, it was kind of weird when he was like, "Oh yeah, she's the one that got away." And it's like, that's not true, Dave. Like,
No.
you're just trying to say anything right now to like fix up your image.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't blame him because I do think he's like super overwhelmed with all the backlash he was getting. So he's just like, it would look bad for him to be like, no, she's not the one that got away.
Yeah. As people who've been on the receiving end of hate from the internet, I feel like it was really big of Lauren to stick up for Dave and say he's not a narcissist. I think it's really important to highlight the fact that this can really affect people's mental health. Like, was Dave a perfect person? Absolutely not. Does he have a lot to grow and heal from, like Lauren said? Absolutely. But does he deserve to get so much hate from people? No, you know? So I think it was really important to clarify that. But a lot of people are saying, why is Lauren not standing on business? And why is she like acting like Dave is her friend and yada, yada? But I'm like, they went through this experience together and they're going to be connected for life. I think it's okay to be supportive.
I haven't seen those comments anymore because I think she did a really good job at the reunion, just kind of explaining, like, no, like what he did was wrong, but I'm not gonna like say he's a narcissist or anything like that. I think my biggest question was, where's Dave's sister?
I know. I can't believe they didn't bring her. Why was she
Because
not
I
in the
feel like
audience?
she's getting so much hate. She's obviously nameless and faceless, and she's getting so much hate. But a piece of me wishes she showed up and she was like, I did not have like this much against you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was a little bit exaggerated on Dave's part. So I was like, okay, for Dave's sister to redeem her name, even though she's nameless, I feel like she should have come on and be like, no, like I did not have all these concerns.
Okay. Do you think that Dave actually gave his sister the letter from Lauren?
I don't know because it's really hard to trust what Dave says because we've seen it. Like he just says things to say things. And so I don't know. Like
Okay.
I was like, are you just saying that you gave the letter so, you could address the backlash a little bit about how you wouldn't get the letter? Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think his response when it was asked like what did she have to say about it was so telling. And he's like, well, she didn't have a reaction. I'm like, what, why would she not have a reaction? I'm like, oh, he did not give that letter to her.
A piece of me feels really sorry for Dave. I think he's just confused in a
Hmm.
lot of different ways, like what he wants.
He's figuring it out. What did Monica say? We're all humans on this earth having a human experience. And that is 100% Dave. He's figuring it out. One last thing about Dave and Lauren, though, I absolutely loved that Molly showed so much support for Lauren. Like I felt like Molly said all the things that Lauren couldn't say. And I just really I love Molly this season. Like who knew we needed a Molly? Everyone needs a Molly.
I like Molly a lot. Like I hope we'll see her again on like another Netflix show, maybe Perfect Match season 4, like who knows. But I was surprised that Molly and Madison are really close. I don't think we saw that
Mm.
friendship in the pods. And you could
Yeah.
tell like they hang out a lot because they're always like, yeah, we saw that. Like when they call out Devin, like Molly was like, I was there too. Can we talk about Madison? Because I'm not
Let's
gonna
do it.
lie, I loved her during this reunion.
Yeah. But I do have to say, she thought she ate with the receipts. And I was so excited when she pulled it out of her armpit and she was like, look. But I don't think it gave what it was meant to. Like, I actually paused it and read the entire conversation. And it does look a little bit bad on Alex. But I was like, I don't think it was as like revealing and had such an impact as I thought it would.
The receipts were very lackluster. But besides that, like Madison was like standing her own. Like you've got three people going against her. You got Meg, Mason, and Alex. And she's like, no, not today. Like I'm standing up for myself. And I think she did a really good job because I will say most viewers after watching that reunion are loving Madison.
Okay, it's interesting because I saw the opposite too. I also saw people going really hard on Madison and saying, like, how much they disliked her at the reunion and why did she get so much screen time when she didn't even get followed. But I honestly thought it was very interesting and I'm glad they included it because this was the drama that we needed the entire season. And I'm glad Madison stuck up for herself, but I also have a soft spot for Meg. So I don't know. I feel like Meg is just like so wrapped around Mason that maybe she's not seeing it from the other side. But
Yeah.
again, everyone I feel like is valid in their opinions except for Alex.
I'll clarify. I like the energy that Madison brought to this reunion. We needed her input on the whole Monica and Joey situation, right? Like she was needed for that. I do like how she stuck up for herself and was like calling out Alex because I actually do believe her. Like when she
Hmm.
says that Alex was talking negatively about Mason, like I actually do believe that.
I do
Because
too.
that's like not something you would just randomly make up, right? It's
Yeah.
such like a specific detail or thing that doesn't really relate to the full story. I feel like if someone were to make that up, it would not be that.
I
I don't
agree.
know.
And also because I paused and read the text thread, I do think that Alex was shady in talking about Mason. Cause like, why are
Yeah.
you, talking about it like that to a friend? Like it's weird. And I do also
Yeah.
believe Madison. But it was interesting to me because when Alex was like, that doesn't even make any sense, or whatever he said, why did the rest of the cast like laugh? And it was mostly the men, but I was like, Alex must just like have them wrapped around their finger because I'm confused as to why the other men were so like supportive of Alex.
I think it's that phenomenon, like human psychology. We felt it too. And I'll be super honest. This reunion filmed as the episodes were coming out. So people were like, Madison is the villain, and people are loving Alex. And I think you kind of side more with the hero,
Mm,
regardless of how they are behind the scenes. And you tend to hate on the villain. We've seen that across seasons. So I don't know, maybe it was like that where they're like, oh, it's better if we side with Alex in this moment because Madison is getting so much backlash. Like when they filmed that reunion, like Madison was at the peak of backlash.
mhm.
So maybe that's why. But I understood everything that Madison was saying. However, I do kind of agree. I've seen this all over social media. It's like, yeah, like Madison is saying her truth, but why is she going so hard at Mason at the same time? Because she is the one that broke up with Mason.
Mhm.
And after this whole segment, I actually went back to watch the pod episodes. And I forget the reason why Madison got so much hate was she was so callous when breaking up with Mason. Like she was just like, bye, see you, like whatever. She came off really strong and it was really good TV during this reunion. Like I enjoyed watching her and I was kind of like, wait a minute, I kind of like Madison, but I also feel like she's in the wrong at the same time.
It's hard to tell who's in the wrong because everyone has a right to feel their feels and feel validated in that. And, but I do truly think that Meg should be the most upset out of everyone, like she said, because
Totally.
it happened to her and she got the short end of the stick with this whole situation. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I did really enjoy watching Madison as well because it was really good television. And it kind of
Yeah.
goes back to how, not saying she's a villain at all, because she's not, but I think having the type of people and characters where they add the drama or have that villainous effect does make the show so much more interesting. So she's interesting to watch. So I'll give her that for sure.
Yeah, no, she's interesting, truly interesting watch. She is like the quintessential reality TV personality.
Hmm.
And I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last time we see her. I think her strong personality and just how filterless she is. I was
Hmm.
like, I don't know, she makes good reality TV. Let's talk about the biggest shock during this reunion, Adie and Ollie's engagement. That came out of
I
left field, but I loved it.
I loved it too because I was like, what is happening? I had no idea what we were watching. It felt a little disconnected. And then I was like, oh, it's like a promo for Perfect Match. But didn't you think it was really weird that they spoiled Perfect Match? Like, wh- why did they show them getting engaged? Like, it was weird.
The only reason I feel like they showed it is because Adie and Ollie haven't been that secretive on their relationship, right? Like they're posting at the same places according to our podcast Susan our DMs. Not that I've been creeping, but just an FYI. So I think maybe Ollie was like, I'm doing this. Like, we are getting engaged, and like whether you like it or not, like you could either be on board or you're not. Like, who knows? That's just like my theory. Okay, but the engagement was very, very cute. But I was really shocked that they were honest that like Adie and Ollie met on Perfect Match season 3.
Mhm.
So the timeline that we know is that Perfect Match season 3 filmed last September 2024. So that's when Adie and Ollie met, and then they got engaged recently, but I'm assuming maybe like a few weeks ago. So it's been 4 months since they met to now that they're engaged, which is
Yeah.
like 4 years in Love is Blind world.
I
So
was just about to say
um
that. It's so long in the Love is Blind world.
yeah, so I was like, okay, they've known each other for like 4 years practically.
Yeah.
But the only reason I was thinking about that timeline is Ollie says during the segment, like, I was planning this for months. And I was like, wait a minute, but you guys have only been dating for 4 to 5 months. So, like, maybe I'm missing something. But I think for contestants who have been on Love is Blind, when it comes to dating and getting into relationships after the experiment, you just go much faster and have those intentional conversations. So it's like, I don't know, just things go a little bit faster.
Especially because they're both from the Love is Blind world. So I feel like they both already come into that situation wanting love and wanting marriage. And they both have the ability to get deep really fast. And that's what they said on this episode, too. So I feel like it's easier for them to get there quicker. So, yeah, like you said, it's probably been like years and years in this relationship already for them.
Honestly. Um, but I was thinking now that people know that they're engaged and obviously that they met on Perfect Match season 3, like how they're going to edit Adie and Ollie on the show. But regardless, like the engagement was very cute. Like I was grinning during the entire time. And I love this crossover. Like I love that it's in this like
Yeah.
Love is Blind universe and like they found each other really like ultimately through the show because they were both on it.
Yeah. I'm also rooting for AD. I feel like she deserves all the good things in the world. So I'm really happy for her. And I'm actually really excited to see what plays out on Perfect Match because I'm like, what happened? What happened? And I just have to say, people probably thought it was so weird that there was a musical performance after, but obviously they're celebrating 5 years, so they're like doing it up. But I love Alex Warren so much. It's so deserving that he got to do this. Like it was, I loved it.
I agree. Like, I thought that this reunion episode was so cute. I know people are like, what's this musical performance? But I really liked it. I liked the ending where all of the married couples, like, say happy 5 year anniversary. Obviously, loved the Adie and Ollie engagement. I just thought it was really cute. I
Yeah.
feel like the producers and editors, for the most part, really listened to the audience and viewers this
Yeah.
season. Like,
Hmm.
again, just not spending so much time on alumni and really focusing on the cast. And I think the cast really brought like the tea.
Yeah, no, this reunion was definitely tea. And again, like I said, I feel like it was the best ending to this very mundane season. And just really quickly, I have to shout out Nick and Vanessa because Nick was asking the questions that I had in mind, and he was like very to the point with them. It was a really good ending to the season. Well, another season bites the dust.
These last two episodes were really good, I must say. So I feel bad calling this the most boring season ever because it made a little turnaround at the end. But we'd love to know what you thought about this season. Please let us know your opinions.
And make sure you guys leave a review and subscribe.
See you next Wednesday.
Bye.